Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that's perfectly balanced, as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin. I am your host tonight, and I have one other Infinity Bro with me. It is the tin hat and carrot distributor of the Infinity Bros universe, Mark Jones.
I'm happy to be here. I got enough carrots to feed the rabbits who have fallen into the hole and keep them alive.
And we're going to be diving into some things into nerd news in a moment, but I'm glad you're here to discuss this with me, because I feel like you are the perfect Infinity Bro to express our collective outrage on one of these pieces of nerd news. So thanks for being here. I feel like it's collective. We'll see when we get there. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, how are you doing today, Mark? What's going on with you?
God, nothing much. Work's still the same. Family life's still the same. We're expecting a new baby come beginning of March. Now the world knows. Babies look so far healthy. We hope that continues.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just pretty normal. So with my job, I run elections or help run elections for the city. So I just got done with that last week, and those are, it's just state primary in Minnesota, and so now the general election will be just suck. If I could take one thing away from my duties on my job is running elections.
When the big elections come up, do you have to participate and help facilitate all that stuff as well?
Yeah. So that's pretty much part of my job with elections is like probably a few weeks before I'll do what they call healthcare voting. So I'll reach out to nursing homes or assisted living facilities in town that I work in and see what they need, and I'll collect that from the county, or I'll collect their paperwork, bring then ballots back to the people that signed up, administer voting then, like in-person voting, and then the day before voting, and then I'll bring for those healthcare people, I'll bring them back, and then that's done. And then for actual voting, I have to set up the day before. I also have to corral probably 10, 12 people to help with the election. And then I'm there for 17 hours in the day.
Oh gosh, that sounds awful.
And at the end, we have to make sure all our machines all counted right, all the ballots are right, and then we have to bring them to the county, and then I have to wait for the county to let me go in case there's a mistake or some questions. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
fun stuff.
That sounds awful.
And that's just the tippy top of stuff that could happen, but
well,
it's not fun.
I'm happy to say that I don't have anything to do with that. So it's just go in, do my civic duty, and leave.
I do find it wild.
Sounds pretty rigorous.
It kind of is, but also, with the state primaries, it's pretty slow. I think we had we have 1,900 registered voters. Only 140 showed up. But in the last 2020 presidential election, they had over 1,000. So we're gonna have quite a bit of people. So
I can just imagine you sitting there hand collecting votes.
Luckily we're big enough.
Every single one of those,
where we have a voting box. So you can slide the ballot in and it counts it. So
nice. So when you're counting everything, do you have to do that by hand, or you just run it through the machine?
No, we have to do that. So we have to count by hand and match it up to what we have.
Oh gosh. Well, good luck with that, Mark. Hopefully that doesn't add too much stress to your plate, and you can keep continuing to appear in the Infinity Bros podcast this fall.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine anything I could do to not be here. I think
nothing could keep you away.
Nothing could keep you away, except for election, I guess.
Except for election, maybe.
On election day. If you were hey, we're going to record Tuesday, November 5th, might be a little tough for you to show up.
We'll see. Maybe we'll do a special election day.
You'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Mark will be at the polls. He'll be polling people what we think about film and TV shows and stuff like that as well. Just and throw that on.
Who you're voting for president? What do you think about what do you think about Deadpool and Wolverine? Do you want more of that?
Yeah, we'll call it an exit poll as people are leaving after they vote.
What do you think about what do you think about Miss Doctor Doom being cast by Robert Downey Jr.?
We better make sure that we do that after they vote, because then people will be maybe writing in Victor Von Doom or something for their votes.
It'd be a waste of a vote.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that still write in like Mickey Mouse and stuff
And
too.
it's a waste because only write-in votes count for people who have submitted write-in ballot to be a write-in person for the ballot. So when you write a random name, it means nothing. You're not doing a civic duty. Just FYI, everyone listening.
Could we actually truly register Victor Von Doom for a write-in?
No, it would have to be a real person, but you could fill out paperwork for Isaac to be a write-in candidate for president of the United States, but probably just Minnesota, and you pay like $500 for it. So yeah, so you'd be an official write-in, but just in Minnesota.
I wonder if that could garner some views on the Infinity Bros. What if we make an Infinity Bros party?
See, it'd be so you could do that. It'd probably be cheaper to do like a state representative. So like you run for your district as Infinity Bros reform party.
Ice Goblin Infinity Bros party. All right. Well, that'll be in the works. Stay tuned for one of the Infinity Bros running. Stay tuned. Listeners, if you haven't heard the Infinity Bros before, we're a group of 6 guys. Mark and I, obviously 2 of them. We talk about pop culture, film, TV shows, video games, all the things that we love to just chat about on a daily basis. And then we do it here, bring it to your ear holes. Today we're going to be talking about The Boys. This finale happened a long time ago, but we just have been busy and talking about Deadpool and Wolverine and Marvel Hall H studio presentation. A lot of stuff that we've been talking about the last couple weeks. So finally getting caught up on some of our summer TV reviews. And then we're going to do some nerd news. And we're going to do that first to lead off the episode. We do have a special rating system that I will place right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
So if you hear us rank something, that is how we do it on our special scale of 6. All right, Mark, are you ready for some nerd news?
Yeah, just pull out that nerd news and just slap me with it. Let's go.
Hey, Zane, I was looking into getting into this Gunpla thing. There's one called the Unicorn Banshee. What the heck is that all about? Actually, Jarrett, what you're thinking of is RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 2 Banshee, which is from the Mobile Suit Gundam. Actually, you know what? It's time for nerd news.
All right, so on the docket for new news, the first thing, I'm going like least important to most important at the bottom here. So least important, Paramount Television Studios is closing. They will no longer be producing any television after Halo got canceled. Season 2 came out earlier this year, and it was not good.
So, like, is that was that created just for Paramount Plus?
Yeah. Yep. It only streams currently on Paramount Plus. I'm sure there's been a lot of weird streaming stuff lately with like Max, started out with the exclusive rights to DC stuff, and then I don't know if it was like a money thing or what, but like then they started distributing them to like all of the streaming services, so you can find some on like Hulu, Netflix. You can find DC stuff all over the place now, but originally, Halo aired exclusively on Paramount Plus, and I think it's still exclusive to Paramount Plus. But they've also got Star Trek shows. Mm-hmm. They've got, I believe, the Yellowstone stuff, like spin-offs, like 1923 and 18 whatever. Those shows are also Paramount Plus exclusives. So yeah, they're shutting all of that down. And I don't know the extent of like if they're finishing up projects that they're in the middle of. Not sure how that all works, but
so I wonder if that means that they're going to be selling, either Paramount's going to be selling, or they're going to be selling off or merging like their Paramount Plus with someone else, because that just seems kind of odd to close your studio and then just rely on either other studios to keep yourself afloat. Because that's the whole point of having a streaming service is you're putting original content on there. But if you're not going to do that, then
Right. I think that would be a likely occurrence, especially with all these streaming packages merging that we've been hearing about. Like now, Max has a package that you can get Max, Disney Plus, and Hulu all together. And we're hearing these like rumors of studios, merging as well. So I would not be shocked if that were the case. Like if Paramount either buys somebody else out or gets bought out by somebody. I don't really know the
or Amazon
specifics
buying
of the
them. That'd be
studios.
the
Or Amazon, right? Exactly. Paramount Plus seemed like a very, very, very ambitious platform for them in the first place. So I'm not entirely shocked that it's shutting down. Like not Paramount Plus as a streaming service, but they're like producing original
well.
content, I guess, for their
Thinking about
platform.
all the platforms, I would say Paramount Plus, in my opinion, has always been the least user friendly.
True. Yeah, that's
Because
definitely true.
it's probably the only app, I should say the only one, but the one that I've had the most times where it's crashed or frozen up on me. So
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely echo that sentiment. I think I'm currently subscribed to like nearly all of the major streaming services. Probably should get rid of a few because I'm sure I don't utilize them all to the best of my
I'm with you,
ability.
and I wish, like, I'll probably stop Paramount Plus. I have that in the yearly one, so that's December for me. Because there's like nothing we never watch. The only thing we ever watch on there is sometimes we watch SpongeBob for Maggie. That's about it. And Kelly hates it. She thinks it's stupid. I'm like, well, it is.
My kids still watch some Nickelodeon stuff, like all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff is on Paramount Plus. But yeah, generally we don't use that much. We don't use Peacock a whole lot. We used to watch like The Office and Parks and Rec on a like regular basis, so that's why we initially had it. But just lately, we just haven't been able to watch much TV at all. So we just haven't been watching much of it. So that's another one that I could probably get rid of and not really blink an eye.
Peacock's a mainstay in the house.
You and with your
WWE.
historical wrestling archives that you
pretty much
that you're going through.
I know what's on that as I wish they never combined with Peacock, because how the WWE had their app set up was, I would probably say, the best user-friendly app for any streaming service ever was the WWE app. And now this one,
Really,
Peacock was awful. Yeah, like they did they had an initiative to do so much detail with their app where like in certain episodes it like blocked everything off, like start of a match, promo, ending of a match, where it's like you could skip to spots you wanted, versus Peacock is totally set up to run commercials. But now I pay the extra like $6 to not have commercials. I hate
so you could get rid of the ads for your 1997 WWE SummerSlam.
And they don't cut ads like where the actual shows cut ads. It's stupid.
That's what annoys me is when they cut in the middle of a thing and not at like the end of a scene. It's like, come on, that's just dumb. That's just basic TV knowledge, I feel like.
And with Peacock, so like my beautiful wife Kelly and I, we watch like a nightly show, and our current one is The Nanny, which is on Peacock. So having like 4 commercials during that while we're in bed kind of stinks. Like I don't need to know what Charmin's doing with their Red Bear. Like I don't need you sell toilet paper. Nothing's changed. Stop selling me the Red Bear and his dirty butt.
Yeah, that's it's not something that you really want to be interrupted by during your show for sure. But that's some interesting news. I again, like I said, I don't think it's entirely surprising necessarily, because I don't know how profitable Paramount Plus is as a platform, but certainly their original shows don't really seem to be huge draws.
They tried really hard, I think, to sell on the Nickelodeon and the Star Trek stuff. And just think about the Super Bowl ads they had this last year, to then all of a sudden 9 months later you're shutting it down.
Yeah, true.
But I think we're in the midst of the streaming wars, so we'll see who survives. I'm sure at one point, if you're already bundling 3 companies, you should make it more user friendly, I think, and then will just be down to 3 that we'll pay for, which will now eventually just be the same as cable. So
Yeah, pretty much. That's
especially
pretty
if we
much
have
how
to pay
it
extra
goes.
to not have ads. So
Some interesting news there. Next big thing on the docket here, Mark, is Bo DeMeo, the creator of X-Men 97, got fired from Marvel Studios before X-Men 97 even premiered, allegedly for what he posted just a week ago here. Longest time he stayed quiet on it. And we talked about it on the Infinity Bros podcast a few times. Like, I mean, it had to have been something pretty horrendous for Marvel to just outright fire him. But Marvel never really announced anything. Like, we heard nothing, which is kind of, I'm honestly shocked that it kept quiet for this long, because he didn't say anything about it. He was like making commentary about the show itself and the things that he did to create it during the show as it was going on, like on social media, which was kind of cool. Like, it was cool to see his perspective and see his thoughts on it and stuff like that. But then just about a week ago, he posted on social media that he was fired in response to a Instagram post that he made, which, going back to that post, was actually made in June during Pride Month. And then he was actually fired in March. So the story just kind of didn't really add up. And then Marvel clapped back and basically were like, yeah, there was a lot of other things going on. They basically said that he was sending nudes to interns and in poses that he wanted to give them, quote unquote, inspiration for animation and stuff like that.
So like Disney Marvel wasn't going to do a damn thing to out him, but the moment he's like, hey, they fired me over an Instagram post made,
it sure seems like it, because Disney
like,
didn't say
we
a
did not
thing.
do that.
Literally
we
did not
fired
say
you
a thing
because you were sexually harassing interns.
Yeah. Okay, so this is all alleged details. Disney obviously has not shared anything. Bo DeMeo obviously has not shared any of this, but alleged details. Sent nudes of himself in sexually suggestive hero poses to young male staffers on the project, saying they could use it as quote unquote inspiration. Persisted after being asked to stop sending said pictures. Groped an assistant multiple times, and was emotionally and physically abusive to other staffers on the project as well. So it sounds like there was plenty of issues, enough to fire him. And like you said, Disney was totally fine with just firing him and letting it be until he posted this on social media. And now all this stuff is coming out, and it's like, oh boy, okay.
So it seems so weird that we live in a society where like we don't have any like physical altercations in a situation like that, where it's just like, and maybe it's also probably the environment in that work where it's like you don't want to like punch a dude who's your boss, but it's like, dude, in that situation, that dude's not like not like DeMeo would find me attractive at all, but like I'm knocking that dude out. Like I'm getting like a blood fight with him.
Yeah,
like bro, cut, like especially if he did it twice, where he's asked once to stop.
Yeah,
and we don't know the whole aspect of like, was this like goofing around? Was like everyone doing it in the office and then he took it too far type of thing? Like that's also a scenario, but
right. And this is all alleged. We don't know any details. Nobody has confirmed any of this stuff.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've been already talking about, he got fired before the show even premiered. So like, you got to know that something was pretty bad if that's the case. So yeah, it's just fascinating to me that Disney was fine with just letting that be, and then he had to say something on social media, and so now all this stuff is just magically coming out. Like,
did it just like come out like as alleged from Disney, like someone asking Disney, or did like someone
there was a couple articles, one from the streamer specifically, that kind of had these alleged details. They didn't name a source, but there was also Jeff Schneider, who is a Marvel insider, like scooper type guy, which
like he knows people who hear things.
Yeah, he knows people on the inside of Marvel, and there's a lot of times where those scooper people are just flat out wrong. But like you said, where there's smoke, there's fire.
And like, why lie about that?
Yeah,
Like,
why lie
it's one
about
thing to
that?
be like,
And with
no,
him,
RDJ isn't Doctor Doom.
yeah,
That's a lie.
exactly. It was very interesting. Bo DeMeo posted that on socials, the basically picture that he posted back in June.
Give an
And then
example
he
of it.
posted something to the effect of, the truth will be revealed.
The truth.
And I
Wow.
don't think that's the truth that he wanted to be revealed that is coming out, but it is now. So for finding out things about Bo DeMaio that we probably didn't need to know, that could have been left under the rug if he had just not said anything. But here we are. I believe that he also wrote season 2 of X-Men 97. So it will be interesting to see
It's
how
wild.
they
Like, I'm like,
handle all that.
if what's rumors are true, it's deplorable. But it's like, I want his season 2. Season 1 was great. So like,
Yeah, dude.
I'm sorry for anyone that was affected negatively in this, but like,
right.
he did a good job. But it's too bad he
Yeah.
might be a scumbag.
Yeah, exactly. And he's fired now, so he's not contributing to the project anymore.
Yeah.
So, if they use his script and it's good, then so be it. I think they even said something about after firing him, I don't know if it's a contract thing, but they don't need to credit him for using what he had written for season 2.
Oh, sure.
I think I heard something about that, but that's, again, all hearsay, not confirmed type stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Next big thing of nerd news. This is the thing that I think we're going to talk about the most, Mark.
Is this the collective, like we all agree thing?
Yes, this is the thing that I was talking about. Acolyte season 2 canceled. Confirmed by Disney and Lucasfilm. They are not producing season 2 of The Acolyte, which Acolyte was pretty controversial in terms of just the show itself, like being good, not good. There's so many people online still continuing to arguing about the content of this show. But the thing is, even if it's not good, this is just my personal thoughts on it. Even if it's not good, it raised a ton of questions that needed to be answered in a season 2. And now we're not even getting that season 2.
Right.
So what were your initial thoughts on Acolyte season 2 being canceled?
Well, I'm actually shocked it's canceled for how much they shoved down our throats, how it was the most watched thing on Disney Plus. But yeah, honestly, it's like they shot themselves in the foot by basically, like, I just don't get this with Disney and Star Wars. Like, why be different than what the fan base wants? Because like, you can still tell a good, and that's the other thing, they did not tell a good story here, and like, the writing was bad, the exposition was bad, and yeah, there are pieces in there that were good, but overall it just didn't hit the mark. So it's like, so I'm just more surprised they actually did cancel it, but that's probably telling them how much money they spent on it to not want to run it back one more time.
Yeah, they spent, I believe it was around $20 million per episode,
which doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, right. It was kind of difficult to see where they spent that money. I mean, obviously
they probably
you had
laundered that money. It's probably being laundered to somebody.
Yep,
Something
all
illegal
right,
is happening.
here we go. We're diving into the rabbit holes.
When you go down the rabbit hole of film and TV and their expenses, and you're like, where the hell does that money go? It really starts raising questions. Like, where is some of that money
it gets to me is like these movies that they're making for 250 to 300 million.
Yep.
And then you get like Godzilla -1, which the budget was 15 million for, and it looks just as good as those $250 million movies. It's like, where does this money go?
But there with Godzilla -1, we're using, I'm assuming that 15 million is converted to yen to American dollars, because if you're going to be making something in a different country, that could be lower expenses.
That's probably true. Yeah, but I mean, it was 15 million like American dollars was their budget.
But like in like the big budget movies here in America, how much are like the executive producers, directors, and making where it's like they're really, how exorbitant is that compared to other countries with big movies?
Well, exactly. And we talked about in our Hall H episode, I mean, Robert Downey Jr., when he comes back for Secret Wars and the other Doomsday, I mean, he's going to be making like 50 million per movie. Like that's a huge chunk of that budget. That's like a fifth of their production budget. I'm guessing.
Wild. I wonder if it's per movie or it's
It
or
might
is
be split between them, but
that's the
either
thing.
way,
Maybe
that's
it's for the
still
whole project. So I'm guessing they're probably going to go into that. They're probably going to
right.
film that back to back. So really, it is one movie in a sense that they're filming.
True. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if that movie ends, or those two movies together end up being over $500 million, like in
Yeah.
budget. But
Right. Because, yeah. And then you got, like, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is the top of that cast list, but you got an all-star cast now, and they're
well,
not
and
going to
it's going to bring
be
people out too, where it's like, hey, we're going to also pay Nick
right.
Cage like $2 million to be in this movie for a minute.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. It's going to start racking up, but it's pretty wild how all of those expenses end up coming out.
But I'm sure, back to the Acolyte, I'm sure they saw the writing on the wall where it's like, well, to me, I wonder if they're ever going to put out toys for this stuff, because that's the real tell, is if the show did good, does anyone want any merchandise for this? And I think as collective as a whole, I think that's no one wants the merchandise to a hot number like The Force Awakens.
Well, and this is in response to Acolyte and probably Andor too. Those shows are targeted at adults, whereas in general, Star Wars is targeted at kids because they can make a lot of money off of merchandise and toys and stuff like that. Nobody's going to want a Cassian Andor action figure after Andor, like you and I might, because we're the adults that show is targeted to, but like a kid's not going to want a Cassian Andor doll. Like that's just not going to.
When I was
May as well. The whole Acolyte, all of the characters in the Acolyte. What kid is going to be like, oh, I want a Master Soul doll?
I would I'm just thinking, when I was young and the Phantom Menace came out and Attack of the Clones came out, and I had to spend my hard-earned money on toys, I wanted the obscure characters. So like, I think if I was a kid in this day and age, yeah, I would want those toys. But I get what you're saying.
You're the exception, not the rule, though, because like I said, these shows seem like they're being targeted at the Phantom Menace, like us who grew up watching Star Wars. It's targeted at these people who are adults now that have been Star Wars fans their whole lives.
I think that's I think we're on a good point here. So like, people gave the prequel trilogy so much crap because it was targeted to kids, but it made them so much money in toys, where now we're in an age where it's like, we're making movies or TV shows to be edgy or like on the cusp of like pushing an agenda or whatever you want to say. But it's like you're kind of losing the heart and soul of the show, where it should be pushed towards, I think, more kids and also parents at the same time who grew up on this stuff, where I think with the Acolyte more so just missed on all marks for that. I mean, it had some good fight scenes, but
yeah,
I think overall, going back to what you said, it's like it's not selling anything to sell toys or merchandise. Like, you're right, no one's probably buying a May t-shirt to be like, I love Star Wars, favorite Star Wars character ever, right here on my shirt.
yeah, I don't think even the people that love this series, I don't think they're just like sprinting out the door to go buy Acolyte merchandise. Like, I don't know. It's not really that marketable of a show, honestly. And by the end of it too, this guy, Master Soul, who we've been all rooting for this whole time, turns out to be just a dirtbag like everybody else, which in the grand scope of things
was not a dirtbag. He made a calculated decision that any sane person would, given the circumstances. And for some reason, the writer of this show and the people who defend it think that wasn't acceptable. That just tells me that you need to get out of your concrete city and go into the real world.
Well, the dirtbag part of Master Soul is not killing Mother Anastasia in that moment, because I'm assuming that's what you're referring to.
That's what people call him a dirtbag for.
No, that's not why he's a dirtbag. He's a dirtbag for never telling May and the full story. That's what he's a dirtbag for.
Whatever. He thought he was doing his best.
Or Osha, excuse me.
That knowledge away from her.
Okay. You basically are Master Soul as like a human form, so probably that's why you're defending.
You're not wrong.
Anyways, viewer wise, I found these stats fascinating because you mentioned earlier, Mark, that's what people were harping on. Is like, oh, the Acolyte's so great. Like everybody's watching it. Like it made record premiere like watches on Disney Plus, blah, 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 all that stuff. This is from Deadline. The Acolyte got off to a strong start when it launched, with 2 episodes generating 4.8 million views on its first day to rank to the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus this year. The tally rose to 11.1 million views globally after 5 days of streaming. This made its debut on Nielsen's top 10 charts in its premiere week at number 7, which is not bad for, a show just in general. Climbed to number 6 the following week. But it could not sustain the momentum, dropping out of the top 10 in week 3, literally 1 week after the 2-episode premiere. And it did not come back onto the top 10 list until the final episode. So it just didn't get the numbers that everybody was basically saying that it was supposed to or did. It just didn't get it. And when it comes down to it, it's a financial decision that Disney makes. Like, are we going to spend $100+ million on a season 2 if people are not going to watch this?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That's probably exactly what went through it. But I mean, I don't think it was a hard choice for them if that's the metrics are saying. But yeah, it had some good moments. But like at the end of the day, it's not, people aren't coming to buy Disney Plus for the show, and that's what we're showing.
That honestly makes me more frustrated that they canceled this, because they did raise so many questions and didn't really wrap up those storylines at the end of season 1 or the end of the finale. Now that we can say there's no season 2. But that, I don't know, man. The foresight, I guess you can't really blame Leslie Headland, because if I or any of us were in her position, yeah, I would want to make a show that could get a season 2, and I would want to plan for a season 2. But at the same time, like, if you're not already guaranteed to do that, I don't know. Where does that leave you, I guess?
So, like, to me, this cancellation like this, now thinking more about that, and like what that company just said, is I'm sure that was not the thought to cancel this until maybe this month, or maybe they did some auditing and maybe they're trying, just like a lot of people, cutting costs, and this was like, yeah, it was an okay show but not good enough to keep on. So it could be a situation like that where it wasn't necessarily Kathleen Kennedy making the decision, it was people that surround Bob Iger making the decision to be like, nope, this is a show that we're not going to invest $200 million in again to get okay numbers.
Yeah, if it's not going to draw people into Disney Plus, which I don't have recent numbers on like how many subscriptions that Disney Plus has, but I have a feeling that it has probably been trending down over the past like couple years. Well, I wouldn't even say a couple. Like, I feel like that second season of Mandalorian was probably like peak Disney Plus subscribers. Like, everybody was on the Disney Plus train at that point. And they were, in the middle of their Marvel Disney Plus series as well at that point. And now that everybody's kind of fallen off of Marvel, that people are starting to fall off of Star Wars as well. I don't know, man. I don't know if the subscriber numbers are there that they can justify spending that much money on a season 2. Financially, business-wise, it makes sense. As a consumer, it's pretty frustrating.
So I think you're probably right. Peak quarter 4 2022, they had 164 million subscribers. And then quarter 3 of 2023, they went down to 146 million. But as of quarter 3 of this year, so we're not even done with the quarter. So I'll go back to quarter 2. Quarter 2, they're at 153.
Okay.
So like
they're down, but it's not like, right, it's not a significant drop necessarily.
I'm sure those numbers come from when they do, because Disney is a publicly traded company. So when they do their shareholders meeting, they divulge all the info. So I'm sure that's where that comes from. So
sure. Let's talk a little bit about the show itself. So there's several threads that did not get answered in this season. Most prominently, I feel like, to me, is we get a 1.5 second shot of Pelagius, and that's it. We're just never gonna get anything more on him. And this show, anyways. Like, how could you just leave that hanging? That's
Probably pretty
frustrating,
easy
man.
when it comes from the top that, it's all about the dollar bill at the end of the day.
I'm sure, like we already mentioned, Leslie Headland, like if we were in her position, we'd probably be doing roughly the same thing. But I wonder if she was told prior to the reception of this series that they were going to go ahead and do a season 2, because it seems like she already had it in the plans to do a season 2 and more, obviously.
Well, and that's another thing. Like, this is where I think it might come full circle, that it might not actually be the show's fault that this was a decision up high. Like, it didn't
Right.
matter. I mean, like, the only thing that would have saved it if it was like a major success and like everyone loved it, where like maybe it was just totally out of their control and it didn't matter. Because if it was purely on what's her name's back to like, oh, they didn't like what she did, they could have just replaced her and done a season
Sure.
2 without her.
Right. But yeah, I think there was enough just general outrage at the show, not necessarily at her, that they were just like, you know what? Let's just pull the plug. Let's just be done with it. And I feel like there's such different vibes when you go back to Andor, which has a similar budget per episode
And
as
more episodes too.
Acolyte, and more episodes. Yeah, exactly. But it was just generally well received, and I don't think the numbers were quite as high, like as far as viewers for the premiere. But like, Andor is a show that to me is aging like fine wine. I kind of want to go back and watch it again and see how it holds up compared to the first time that I watched it, because every time I look back at Andor, I'm like, man, that was so good. Like,
Well,
those moments were just so powerful and so cool. It makes me want to go back and rewatch it.
well, I think with Andor, where I think that's so good. It's the trifecta. It has good acting, good writing, and I think it probably just timing wise, where it just came out at the right time where people are watching.
Sure.
Like when that came out, that was still probably like, we're kind of just still kind of getting over COVID versus, because that would have been like what, 21, 22, so maybe even still in the heart of COVID.
Yeah, right.
I would say if we're gonna go on like on this kind of little tangent, I would like to know in an alternate universe, if that like video of Leslie Hayland and then the actress who plays May and Osha doesn't come out, where they're like, if they weren't so upfront about,
They were like flippant. Flippant is, I guess, the word that I would
yeah,
describe about like just like Star Wars in general. They're like, oh yeah, well, people get mad about it. I don't care. Like,
yeah, like kind
whatever.
of like they're not caring about the lore
Mhm.
or the history of it, and kind of just like poo pooing some stuff. And then like and granted, yes, Star Wars fans are the worst type of fans out there. I'll give you
Mhm.
that. And they're predominantly probably men, probably white men, and they don't like certain things. But at the end of the day, like for those who like, I just wonder if that video never came out, does it get as much heat as it did? Because I
That's
think
a
a lot
great
of people
question.
came into the show. A lot of the people that were going to be haters, anyways, got even more revved up because of that. Like,
Yeah.
they're promoting it in a
Mhm.
I don't know. And maybe that was all actually they're trying to hook, line, and sinker a new audience and a new group of
Yeah.
people, and it just didn't work. But
Right. And I think you're going on something that is kind of an important thing to talk about too, is like you had mentioned previously that there is probably an element of these shows are marketed more for adults, and because of that, or in the way that they're marketed toward adults, is that they have some sort of agenda, which is not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing to have an agenda in a movie or a TV series or whatever. But when you're saying like you already have these crappy Star Wars fans who are mad about that so-called agenda, that's already a significant portion of the Star Wars fandom that is either not going to watch the show or make just a giant stink about the show online. So, and that's already happening with every single Star Wars project at this point.
yeah,
Like
maybe.
that's right. That's
After
not
the
just an
original
Acolyte
trilogy,
thing.
that's the only one that's sacred, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. But when you get those types of PR moves that they're just literally throwing wood onto the already high burning fire, I don't think that helped this series in terms of viewership, because
Mm-hmm.
some of those casual viewers that might have seen this, they see that and they're like, oh wow, like there's a big discourse about that online. I don't really want any part of that, so I'm just gonna
or like I don't want to support
avoid
that.
it.
Like that's the
Right.
maybe the other
Yeah.
thing, but.
So it's I don't think it helped the show. And that's probably one part of the puzzle as to why, we're not getting a season 2. So that's a bummer. Hopefully they handle that with a little bit more tact in the future, because they have confirmed that season 2 of Andor is coming. We do have season 2 of Andor to hold on to. We're getting the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in 2026.
Have they dropped a trailer for that yet?
No. And we're getting Skeleton Crew later this year. That's coming out.
That's
too.
another show where I'm just like, man, they're just not making stuff for adults. Or like for me, I mean, like just me personally. It's like,
right.
This isn't.
That one I'm a little, I don't know. I did feel really excited about the Acolyte before the show came out. When the show was airing, obviously it was like, oh man, this is really not what I expected it to be. But the trailer for Skeleton Crew had Goonies vibes to me, and I'm like, I'm pretty excited about that actually. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting.
I mean, I'll still watch it. Like, I'm still gonna watch it and like probably still love bits and pieces of it. But like, yeah, I saw that trailer. I'm like, oh man, am I getting old? Because like, damn, it does not look entertaining to me to the full like what I was hoping for, like my expectations.
Right.
But maybe like maybe it'll come out and Maggie will love it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, at some point, our kids are going to see something Star Wars, Star Trek, or other IPs even that we
Star Wars or Star Trek.
Just Star Wars or Star Trek. They're going to see something new that is made that we don't like, that they're probably going to like and grab onto that. No. Impossible. No. And then we're going to look at them and be like, hey, that's okay. Good for you. Actually, you know what? Great example of that is Miles Morales. To my kids, Miles Morales is Spider-Man. And he obviously is Spider-Man. But like when I think Spider-Man, I think Peter Parker, because that's just what I grew up with. But to them, Miles Morales is Spider-Man.
Who's your Green Lantern?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Mine's John Stewart.
Yeah, John Stewart.
I didn't know. I didn't know Green Lantern was white until I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's dumb.
I think I started reading comics generally about the same time I started watching those shows. So to me, Hal Jordan and John Stewart are kind of interchangeable.
Sure.
For Green Lantern.
And I never read like any Green Lantern comic books growing up. So like that's where it's like it just shocked me when I learned that Hal Jordan was like the OG Green Lantern. Like, F
that's
this.
Funny. Because John Stewart is awesome in that show.
Because I grew up on the Justice League the animated series. It's like
exactly.
That was my John Stewart. Or my
Green Lantern. That's just like there are going to be Star Wars characters that come out and shows that come out that we're probably not going to like, but our kids are probably going to like them.
Okay, thinking about that.
That was the Phantom Menace, like the prequel trilogy for us. We love those movies. Like the older generation
hated they dog crapped on those
movies. They hated those movies, but we loved them. They're for us.
I know. Having said all this, we did watch. I don't remember what it's called, but it's on Disney Plus. It's a Star Wars show where it's like the 3D. It's made for kids. I don't know if it's called Resistance, where they're like,
there is one that is Resistance. It's a weird art style.
And I'm like, this, like as an adult, I was like, this is crap. This is blasphemy to the lore. Like making
Dude, I watched a couple episodes of Resistance and thought that exact same thing. I was like, this show is garbage. I'm not watching this.
That's a stepping stone to get kids into Star Wars. It's it's a kid's shit. It's basically like CoComelon, but Star Wars.
Well, and the most recent one is the Young Jedi Adventures.
Okay.
We've watched a couple episodes of those, and it is very. It's like the equivalent of like Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Like it's for little kids.
Yes,
like little kids.
And maybe that's a show I watch because that's what reminds me. That's what the animation's like, the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it probably is the one. But that it's not great, but like it's made definitely for little kids. So like there's still parts of it that I'm like, that's kind of cool and kind of enjoyable and all that stuff. But we're not the target demographic, Mark.
I just wish they would start targeting us for the demographic. But maybe that's
what they tried to do with the Acolyte. They just didn't successfully do it. Anyways, no more season 2 for the Acolyte. So there you go. That's our nerd news for today. All right, Mark, are you ready to dive into The Boys?
The boys. Yeah. Let's dip in there. Just a little bit, just a tip.
All right, here's your official spoiler warning for season 4 of The Boys.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
All right, Mark. See, The Boys finale happened like probably a month ago now. So I mentioned on the Patreon, we're not going to dive too deep into the storylines and the characters and all that stuff, but I'm going to just ask some general questions, like what did you like about the season? What didn't you like? What were your favorite parts, favorite episodes? Let's start out with what did you like about season 4 of The Boys?
That's actually like I can't think off the top of my head. Like not saying that there isn't one. One thing I do appreciate with The Boys, just in general, this probably isn't indicative of just season 4, is how grotesque they make stuff. But like in reality, if that happened in real life, that's how gross it would be. Like if someone like in this season, like the person who can basically mimic what you look like and like her skin peels off like to her normal self. Like that's probably how it really would look in this world.
True.
I really liked the introduction of Firecracker. I thought that was a good political commentary and social satire in a sense. That's what I really enjoyed this season is how
they really dove into that this season, right? Yeah. Like they've always had that for the previous 3 seasons, but they really focused on like the right versus left, like political, commentary satire in this season, which I don't know. There was good parts and kind of like negatives to it, I guess. But what did you like about that?
The like propaganda aspect of it. And just shilling to the point where it's like, they can really sell a negative story in a light where it's like that literally happens in our climate of political atmosphere and just politics in general. Where so it's wild and it just makes you think where it's like some of this stuff has to happen in real life.
Yeah, there were multiple times during this season when it was running where I would see like an article or a headline on Twitter and I would be like, that's something straight out of The Boys. Like that's something I would see in The Boys right now. Like it's funny. They do play up the satire, but at the same time, it's like they are spot on with the themes of their satire in the sense that like you see actual satire sites. They like throw something up there and it's just stupid. It's satire. That's just, they play it all up. And I'm like, that's something that I would see in The Boys. There you go. And then there's sometimes that there are real articles that I see and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. This sounds like something that I would hear on on The Boys. But yeah, it's wild to see the parallels to real life. And you got the Homelander side and the Starlighters, and they literally multiple times during the season have a stage or whatever, and they have like gates separating and Starlight's on one side and Homelanders on the other, and it's just like they play up that political satire to the max this season.
Well, and another thing I think was pretty weird and probably could say grotesque episode was the one where they're conspiring with other like leaders or like people who have money in the nation to like kill the president basically and like take over everything. And with all that, like the Tech Knight, who's like the super rich superhero, of course has like some weird sex dungeon. Like,
that was a weird
about it. That's probably like real. That's probably like real life. There probably is some high up person who has that's his same setup somewhere and has parties and everyone goes down and does weird grotesque things to some unknowing victim. Like that's real. Like that's that was
you're not wrong, but at the same time that they do this stuff for shock value. Like that's what the 100%. Show is.
Like the part where Huey's strapped up and it's like I'll just cut a hole. Yep. And what he's doing. It's like, okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's another one where, like, the thing that Tech Knight didn't want his money to go to was Black
Yeah,
Lives Matter. Like,
that
that's
was hilarious.
like this dude, like is gonna get killed, and he's like, no, you can give my money to anywhere else, but just not them. It's just like, oh, like it's
Oh
playing
gosh.
into like the white supremacy like of it all,
Right.
where it's just like
Yeah.
of clearly what that character is all about.
Yeah.
Another thing, it's like I didn't like Huey's storyline in this show.
Yeah,
I feel
it
like
was kind of
his
funky
like
this
character
season.
growth really didn't happen much. He's still like a wimp. It's like you'd think after all these years, or I don't know how long it's what you could say from season 1 to now, where it's like you're still kind of like a timid, shy guy. Like I just
Yeah.
or like the storyline with his dad and all that, where it's just like I wish they would have just went the route where he like either just the V didn't work or he actually got powers and he didn't turn crazy, but that's not the case.
I agree with you. That was not my favorite storyline. Like Jack Quaid is a great actor, and I think that's why they kind of tried to force a storyline like focused on him. And I don't know, it was fine. It just was probably my least favorite storyline. It just wasn't as interesting as everything else going on this season. One of my favorite parts of this season, though, was Jeffrey Dean Morgan as, what was his name? Kessler, I think, the guy
Yeah,
in
Joe
the show.
Kessler.
They played it really well where, he seemed like this real guy through the first 3-4 episodes or whatever. And then you kind of start getting these little hints of like, hey, maybe he's actually
Did you
just in
notice
his head.
this? When the butcher was the butcher, he had like gray hair, like he looked sick. But anytime he showed up, and this is before we knew, anytime he showed up and his hair was all black, that's when Joe Kessler was in control. That's my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not notice that, but yeah, that would be interesting to go back and
Because like if Joe Kessler is like in control, that means his body's being healthy.
right.
Because that's
True.
what we kind of got through that, where it's like Joe Kessler's got to take over for Butcher's body not to die. So
well, and then all that leading up to the last episode, which wild, like last 5 minutes of the finale, where Butcher just comes in, rips Victoria Newman in half. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, she seemed like she was going to play a pretty important part in season 5, but I guess not. That was wild. Like, where he just kind of finally let him take over. Because throughout the whole season, he's kind of like fighting against it. Like, this isn't the right way to do it, all that good stuff. And then he's just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna let him do his thing.
Well, that's another thing too, where it's like I'm really interested to see what they're doing for season 5. Where if you're gonna have, because if all of them are just on their own, and Butcher's the only one out there, like what dystopian future are we gonna get in season 5? And like, what is Homelander's plan with Soldier Boy? Like, you gonna unfreeze him, or is he gonna kill him?
Yeah, I don't know. That was an interesting part of the finale. Like, I don't know
really
what.
just expected like Soldier Boy to get broken out at some point, but like after Ryan went crazy and killed what's her name, I was like, oh yeah, now Ryan's probably gonna go rogue, and we probably will get that where it's Ryan and Homelander fighting because it's the only person who's gonna be able to probably kill Homelander.
Right? He'll be the only one that'll be able to kill him. Basically, yeah. I think that'll definitely happen. That actually, I think it's the episode before the finale where Ryan is like on the set of like that puppet show or whatever.
Like Vought's Sesame Street.
Vought's like literally feeding people propaganda with these puppets, the 7 puppets, and Ryan's just sitting there like, man, this sucks. Like this
is not the message I want to be associated
with. This
with.
is not what I want to be a part of. And on live television, just like, no, this is wrong. Stands up, walks out. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've been waiting for that moment for Ryan for a long time. So that was cool that we finally got that. Like, after he's seen his dad do just messed up stuff.
Yeah.
And finally is like, okay, now I need to stand up and probably stand against my dad. The puppet scene was just the way to do it was just perfect. That was perfect boys fashion. Also perfect boys fashion. They have a couple episodes where they're on this like farm where Butcher sets up what's Newman's husband or whatever to make
make the virus.
The virus. And the V gets somehow injected into these farm animals, and you have like V'd up like chickens and lambs and cows and stuff all flying around and killing
And
humans.
murderous, yeah.
Just, oh my gosh, the one episode where they have the pack of sheep
Yeah.
that are like vampire sheep that are flying around is just like, oh my gosh. The Boys every season has been able to just like ramp up the craziness and ramp up everything. And I feel like they ramped it up this season, but it wasn't as clean, I guess, as the previous seasons have been. This season seemed a little bit disjointed altogether, because like season 3, that Soldier Boy season was like, that was peak. Like that was such a good season.
I would agree with that. I would back it up where it's, and we had a good climb up to there. But then I think, I don't know, is it just, are we going to climb it where it's like the identity of this season just really didn't click with us?
Yeah,
and
that could be.
But also then it's like, I think it's back to like, do they try to, I don't want to say stretch, but like try to go a little too far with certain characters where it just didn't really work out? Or and their whole plan was to end with season 5, so I mean maybe this is just what they told here was just necessary to get us to season 5.
Sure.
And then they can,
and it honestly does feel like a building season. Like the season feels like it's a build up to
season 4 is the Boys' Captain Marvel.
Just building up to, or what was it, an Endgame? Was it Infinity War?
Yeah, I think it was Endgame, right?
I think it was. I think you're right. They didn't have her in Infinity War. Yeah, it was Endgame. You're right. That's that's a pretty bold stretch to compare Captain Marvel to season 4 of The Boys, I feel like. But Max would probably agree with you.
Oh gosh, who's the one? Was it Milk something or
Mother's Milk?
There you go. Is he the one who gets captured by the at the end of the series? Is he the one that gets captured by the dude with the long
beep? Yeah.
I don't know why he's involved. Like, how is that guy like a guy you go to like help wrangle guys?
That's a great question.
But another thing with like the Boys, we're kind of understood that anyone that has V in them has like invulnerability, like they're strong. Like that's kind of like the main with everyone. It's like they have strong skin and super strength, and then you might have some crazy, like you can grow your beep as long as you want it to be.
Yep,
and use it
might
to
have that.
Track down people and apprehend them for breaking the law. Is literally what we saw at the end of this episode, this season.
Yeah, it's just
or convenient that Starlight gets all her powers back right at the end.
Yeah, that was pretty convenient. She's another one where I did not like her much this season. Like she didn't really do anything. Like nothing really changed with her.
She didn't have like her powers. Where it's just kind of like, okay, what are you gonna do?
Then she became, or the changeling person like became her for like 2 or 3 episodes or something. So yeah, she literally is pretty much in the same spot, I guess, as when she.
Because I just imagine we're gonna be like, either she has to team up with Butcher to like help, or we're gonna find like a ragtag group of superheroes that she'll be a part of. To like fight off, or try to plot against the new regime.
They've been trying to, minus Butcher, who, this whole series has been doing his own thing. Like they've been trying to do it the right way, however the right way is. And then that last episode, Butcher comes in and just tears Victoria Newman in half. So like, yeah, she's going to have to make a choice. Like, all right, do I just roll with Butcher because I guess I don't know what else to do, or are we going to like keep trying to fight the right way type of thing, which I don't even know what the right way would be after this. So
I don't think there is going to be a right way with all your people that had political power are dead,
right?
And the only way out is to so that's will be interesting.
To seize power, which was what Homelander is going to attempt to do.
He's done already if he's because he basically placed their own president that would support whatever Homelander wanted. So
right, interesting lead up to season 5, and season 5 by all intents and purposes seems like it's going to be a banger because this season literally built up to it. So that'll be interesting to see how it happens.
I wonder if we'll get like if season 5 will be like a true ending, or will be like, and we'll finish it with a movie.
Or like, because I've heard they're doing Gen V like season 2. I feel like they played up the involvement of Gen V a lot more than it actually was in the season 2.
Because like that's pretty much a lot of the superheroes at the end, like the younger ones, were from Gen V.
Right. So like, and they made like 1 or 2 appearances earlier in the season or whatever too. But then like one of the main,
that's probably who she ends up. We're gonna have to get them out of their prison at the end of Gen V. Is like the
True. So we'll see what all goes down with that leading up to season 5. But I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit of both of what we were liking and not liking. But was there anything that specifically you did not like about this season?
Kamiko. I am upset that she didn't learn to talk until the end of this series. It was
right.
It just got super frustrating this season, especially the time she went like to the prison to try to see Frenchie, where it's just like, okay, how and I knew eventually she's gonna talk, but it's like I'm kind of a little mad that they waited until the end of the season for her to finally make some noise.
Yeah,
but I mean I won't really say that's like a big like axe against the show in general, but just something I was just like it was annoying at points where it's just like, okay.
I think overall in general character development in this season just didn't progress much, I guess. Like everybody kind of is in the same spot, I guess, as they were at the beginning of the season. Like it feels like we haven't changed much as far. I mean, obviously Butcher probably has changed the most since he was dealing with Ryan and going through his whole like V'd up cancer thing. I don't know, I feel like most of the other characters have stayed pretty stagnant, I guess.
I think the only 2 that like come to my mind that like actually had some character development would be A-Train. I feel like this season. And then Marvin's his name. Marvin's character, I think, had some.
Yeah, MM. Yeah,
had some more. I'd say that's about 2, and maybe you could throw in the Deep in that, but maybe. But
maybe.
I think you're kind of right.
Know about that one.
Everyone kind of seemed pretty like there wasn't. I wouldn't say stagnant, like just straight line. Like there was some, but like not enough
plateaued
to be like
more so.
And this I think goes back to like, well, season 4 needed us to get to 5, and that's where we'll. Get more broad. But
one character that we haven't really mentioned yet is Sister Sage, and I think she's going to be an interesting character in season 5 because she kind of played out the way I thought she would, leading up to the finale. I mean, she's super smart. She basically finagled everything that happened this season, and then in the last episode comes out and like, yeah, I basically planned for all of this to happen, which is kind of cool, but also seems like maybe lazy writing, I guess, a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle of that where it's like honestly, you know what? If someone's that smart, probably has every scenario plotted out to like, okay,
mapped out in their head.
Homelander's probably dumb enough that he's gonna say stuff that he shouldn't have, and we're gonna be in this scenario. And when he gets there, I know
Homelander's not hard to read.
Yeah,
she knows what Homelander's going to do in almost every scenario.
And I think like I get that as like a viewer that might look like lazy writing, but like as her character, if she's truly the smartest person in the whole world, that's exactly how it's going to go down, because it's just going to seem like it's too easy. But it's like, nope. If someone can read someone that good and had multiple different plans planned out, like it's just part of the plan for her.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you there. I don't think it's lazy writing, but it kind of seems like it just because it was predictable, because you knew that she was the smartest one in the room. She knew how all that was going to play out. And that's kind of, I had a sense like that she would come back and be like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I, planned it all out to happen. But again, at the same time, it's kind of cool because she says at some point that like, it had to happen this way in order for her to basically come back in the way that she did. And I was just like, that's pretty cool. I liked her character, and I liked that it's not just another like dumb superhero on the 7. You know, it's like somebody behind the scenes manipulating things, even though you already have people trying to manipulate things behind the scenes.
But still a superhero that has her own vices.
Yes.
Which I think is very telling of the 7, that each member has something that like is a big vice for them. So
good stuff, Mark. All right, moment of truth. What would you rate season 4 of The Boys?
I'd probably say season 4 for me was a 5 out of 6. I still really enjoyed it. It had good moments. It wasn't blow my socks off good, but still good television out in for 2024 is The Boys season 4. So
absolutely, I think I'm right there with you. I'd give it a 5 out of 6 as well. This is probably my least favorite season of The Boys, but I don't think it's not bad television or anything. It's just that the first 3 seasons of The Boys are just really stinking good. Like, I think I'd probably give them all 6s out of 6s. So the fact that this one's a 5 out of 6, maybe slightly disappointing, but it's still super enjoyable. Classic The Boys vibes and stuff that happens in the season. It just felt like a lead up season to season 5. So hopefully season 5 ends it with a bang and we get another, 6 out of 6 awesome season to end the series on.
Hopefully that's all we can hope for.
Yeah,
hopefully really Amazon just cancel it or close their studio.
Yeah. Oh boy, that would be hilarious and really sad at the same time. Tell us what you guys thought of season 4 of The Boys. You can hit us up at theinfinitybros.com, email us at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com, or hit us up on social media. Well, Mark, I think our time is coming to a close for this episode. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for being a friend.
Coming down the road and back again. Heart is true, your pal and a confidant. Bow, bow, bow. Thank you, listener, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thank you for making us a part of your podcast experience. We love you 3000. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube at The Infinity Bros. You can also check out our website at theinfinitybros.com for links, reviews, and sweet merch. Feel free to send us listener feedback via social media or email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.